I have the privilege to speak to Jackie Hermes, who's another content creator coming out of Milwaukee that's blowing up LinkedIn. Jackie tells us about her journey in that she never wanted to be the face of her company. She wanted the company's brand to stand alone. She didn't understand why not talking about her business on video would actually grow her business. And after 12 takes on her first video shoot, she was stunned at how fast people responded. You're not going to want to miss this episode of the Always Go Big podcast.
Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Always Go Big. I have a special guest. Jackie Hermes is with us. She is the CEO of Accelity, a marketing agency for B2B software startups, and a professional speaker. Jackie, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, your content is great, very inspiring. It definitely inspired me as I got started in producing video. And I'm just curious, tell us a little bit about your journey, your story behind getting to where you're at today.
Yeah, it definitely does. So I started Accelity 6 years ago. I was actually an entrepreneur for a few years before that, and I owned a vegan cookie company. Which is a big departure from a marketing agency. But the things that I learned from that were really like the hard work and hustle and just standing at farmers markets or standing in grocery stores, handing out cookies, trying to sell them, working day and night. And I got to use the money from that to start the agency. So I ended up selling that business, not for much more than I bought it for, to be honest with you. But the profits from it helped me start Accelity. And so that was 6 years ago. I actually, while I was running that business, was working full-time for a B2B SaaS company, so B2B software, running their marketing department. And they were owned by private equity. They were acquiring a bunch of different businesses. We were kind of putting them all together. And then they sold off half the business. And at that time, I decided to leave and start consulting.
Wow.
I really didn't see consulting as a career path for me. It just kind of something that I don't want to say it fell into my lap, but it kind of did, because I was applying for jobs in a bunch of different places like Chicago and New York, and everyone said, we need you to be here. Like, we're only looking locally, but do you want to freelance for us for now? And so I got my first 2 or 3 clients that way. And then I was like, oh, this could actually be a viable business. It was very interesting. And I really didn't have an interest in building an agency at that point. So I was selling and I was outsourcing the work, and then freelancers were missing deadlines, and that was making me look bad. And so I started hiring probably 4.5 years ago. And now we have a team of 12. Wow. Most work here in Milwaukee. So that's our start and growth story. And the LinkedIn content I got started with less than a year ago, actually. And Q, who was just Q on LinkedIn, I'm sure you've seen his content, is the one that convinced me to jump in. Nice. I was like, no, I really don't want to. I don't feel like I have anything to say. I really, really didn't want to do it. And he kept pushing me and pushing me and pushing me. And then was like, let's just try shooting one video, which was horrible. He showed it to me the other day. We had to take like 12 takes. But that's how I got started on LinkedIn. So I've been posting between 3 and 5 videos a week for the last, I would say, 9 or 10 months.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you do articles as well.
Yeah.
I've seen you got a lot of articles. Was the strategy to start with just video, or did you incorporate, were you more comfortable with the written word first, or how did that lay out?
Yeah, I was always good at writing. And so that's something that I loved in college. It's something that I did in my professional career for the years before I started the agency. So I was very comfortable writing and publishing blogs. I actually had my own blog that was about productivity and entrepreneurship before I started contributing to Accelity's blog. That was a lot easier for me. It was the jump was getting into video, which was not comfortable for me at all. And everyone says that, right? They're like, yes. I feel great talking about this until you put a camera in my face, and then I freeze and I have no idea what to say. And that's exactly how I felt when I got started.
Yeah, I love the transparency, because you're so good now. And folks that I coach, and I keep telling them, I have a Facebook private group page called Brand You, and I tell them the value of the personal brand. The company's just a logo. They're the brand, and that LinkedIn's where it's at. You're so good at it now. When did you realize that there's something here There's really something here. When was that? You've been doing it a little over a year. When did that occur where it was like a light bulb moment went off for you?
I realized it pretty quickly because I was very lucky that my videos got traction early on. The video announcing that I was going to start making videos got a good amount of traction. And then I posted some videos that weren't necessarily controversial, but they talked more on a personal level from me about things that entrepreneurs experience. And I think it's different than the people that just have like very educational content. I'm really talking more from like the opinions that I've developed over the years and, talking about how I think things should be done or what has worked for me or the things that I'm awful at and the ways that I failed. So it's just, I'm a very, like, if you sit down in one meeting with me, I'll tell you my life story if you want to hear it. I'm pretty open like that. And so I just kind of took that and put it on LinkedIn. And so the videos gained traction really within the first few weeks. And I was like, wow, I have to keep going with this because I wasn't sure. Even when I started posting, I was like, we'll see. You said the company is just the logo and then there's a face to the company. I always wanted the company to speak for itself. Like I wanted my business and the business's work and reputation to speak for itself. I didn't want to be the face. But I've since changed my mind, clearly.
And so a lot of folks that I talk to, it's that negative thought. I'm not good enough or pretty enough or funny enough, whatever. You've heard all the excuses. How did you overcome some of those negative thoughts at the beginning and even today?
It's imposter syndrome, right? Like feeling like you, even with all the years of experience that I have, I sometimes still sit down and think like, why do people trust me with this stuff? People hand over tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to my company to run their marketing. Like, and I constantly am like, but why do they trust us? Are we really that good? And then I look at what other agencies are doing or how other companies talk about their agency. And I'm like, we really are that good, So like it's, the results have really reinforced what I'm doing, which helps. But also you just kind of have to close your eyes and go for it. Even if you feel like you're not good enough, if you don't take that leap, you're never going to get to the next step. Right.
Sure.
It's easy for me to say. I'm very like, I have strong opinions and I am the kind of person that just closes my eyes and jumps. So it's harder if you think through the repercussions more, which I typically don't really.
There you go. And then as far as like putting the content pieces together, what type of, I'm always telling my clients to not overthink it too much. They're an expert at what they do. However, just tell a story and kind of back up on it. How do you put together your content piece? Do you have a team? Do you kind of seclude yourself? Tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, so it's really two ways, and it's kind of changed a little bit over time. One, I have a team. I actually use Quentin Allums' team to film the videos and caption them and stuff for me. And what they do really is they save me work in coming up with topics because they watch me on social, because I'm on Instagram talking about business all the time. I'm talking about business in different podcasts and stuff all the time, so they listen to that stuff and then they grab the snippets and say, hey, or even from conversations, because I talk to them a lot. They're actually in the exact same building as me. So we're together a lot. And they're like, last week you mentioned this. Let's talk more about that. And they give me the topics typically a few days in advance. I don't look at them beforehand though, because I don't want to overthink it. It's, the topics are all things that I've talked about before that I know in business. So I really just want to talk about it, not from the top of my head, but they're not rehearsed. They're things that I know, and I just want to be pulling stories and make it very real and not as like planned. When I first started doing video on behalf of Accelity, it was like the, like whiteboard, or I had like 3 points outlined and I memorized the script. And some of those videos are still on my website. Seriously, go check them out. I was very like stiff, And so I think in this way, I know the material. So if I can just talk about it, it just makes it a lot more real. So that's how we produce them. Well, that's the way that I got started, and we still do that every week. But now I've gone from doing less like planned content. So we shoot fewer videos and more. I'll pull out my phone and be like, oh, hey, here's something that I was thinking. I was in Key West a few months ago and someone on the beach was talking about something. I pulled up my phone and shot a video on it. And that's more documenting thoughts. And that's what I'd like to get to. There are a lot of people that are really good at that.
Yeah, the impromptu stuff. I love the ratio of your impromptu stuff and then the really polished. You can tell that there's a crew out there, and they're filming it, and the audio comes out really good. What about the how has video improved your business? Whether it's revenue, whether it's growth, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's so funny because that's the reason that I was so hesitant, because I was like, I'm not going to be talking about my business. I very rarely actually talk about what I do. I'm more talking about being an entrepreneur and growing a business and hiring people and all of the things that I'm doing day to day. So I was really like, how is this going to translate if I'm not even talking remotely about my business? But we get a good amount of leads because the videos have gotten so much traction that people go and check out my profile. They go and check out our site. We've signed, I think it's 5 clients that came in through LinkedIn, and we've earned over 300,000 in annual recurring revenue from LinkedIn so far. This last year has been the biggest year for my business, and a lot of that has to do with LinkedIn. And when we look at our lead breakdown, like we have all of our leads on a whiteboard in the office, and every week during our team meeting, we go through them and we're like, okay, this is the stage, this is what you guys can expect if they're coming in. And probably about 40% of those leads that we're working at any given time come from LinkedIn. So it's had a huge, crazy impact on my business.
Yeah. You hear that, everybody? Get your content out there. It's so good. How about a real life success story from a client that's followed your advice?
Sure. So one of our clients is a company that is a local software product that we launched last year. They came to us and they had a product that I can't remember if they were in beta or if they didn't do a beta at all. They hadn't launched it. They had just put up a website. They didn't really have their messaging or anything down. And now we've been working with them for last February, about 1.5 years, not even. And they're getting a crazy amount of leads through their website. They started with us in the smallest package, and they've nearly tripled their engagement with us because of the results that they're seeing with inbound marketing and with lead generation through content. It takes time. I think one of the biggest problems with companies is that they're searching for magic, like, okay, I'm going to sign up with this agency and in 3 months, we're going to have, 1 million leads, or, I'm putting the growth of my company in your hands. And it should just be one of your strategies. You have to make sure you have the processes to follow through with what you get out of it. And these guys had the exact right formula, a really good team, a really strong salesperson that was following up on all of the leads that were coming through. And so they just kept cranking up their budget because, if you're going to get more out when you put more in, it was kind of a no-brainer for them. So we were looking at the results during our team meeting last week, and it was crazy, like the amount of downloads and stuff that they're getting after only doing inbound for a year.
Wow. That's so good. Now you mentioned Q, and there is just a lot of content creators that are in Milwaukee. They're doing some fantastic stuff. How often do you get together with some of the other content creators in your area?
We get together pretty often. Actually, Q and some of his team are coming to my house to have some wine tonight. I just moved and I'm like, hey, come check it out. Not only are we creating and we're all creating together, but we're all friends too.
Yeah.
Like Q is about to speak at HubSpot's inbound conference, and I texted him the day that applications were closing. He was like, hey, did you put in your application to speak at inbound? I know you want to do that. He was like, oh no, I didn't.
Yeah.
Submitted it in the final hour and got selected to talk about why people aren't making money on LinkedIn, which is going to be a really cool topic and something that they want to know a lot about. So it's not just that we're all creating, it's that we are all pretty friendly or friends with each other. And so we get together and talk about this stuff a lot. We're all going to a lot of similar events that are happening around Milwaukee. And Milwaukee, there's a really cool movement happening here. There's a lot more money going into tech. There are more like VC and angel funds popping up. There's more, especially with the Bucks and everything that was happening, and we won the DNC, so it's just Milwaukee's on the up and up. So it's pretty cool to be part of it.
Hashtag Milwaukee movement. I think there might be something there for, really, really cool. Tell me a little bit about your company. We've only got a couple minutes left. Tell me a little about your company. If there's a software, a B2B software, SaaS modeled company that is watching this and really likes what you're saying, do they have to be in Milwaukee, or do you do work for companies outside of Milwaukee?
Yeah, about 50% of our clients are outside of Milwaukee. So I think we have clients in 10 states now. We started definitely serving mostly in the Milwaukee area, but we've branched out, especially we run all of our own inbound campaigns, just like we do for our clients. So that's actually how we vet new strategies. We test them on ourselves first, which is really fun for our team because we get to kind of figure out what's up and coming and then roll them out to our clients when it's less risky. But the benefit is that we get all those leads, so we've been able to grow a good amount outside of Milwaukee as well.
Yeah. So, and as far as like, what's the best type of company that you can help? Is it pre-funding? Is it round Series A, or where's a company at? Give us a little bit of detail on that.
Yeah, some of our clients are going for their first raise when they start working with us. So, and some of them even bring me in to help them pitch the portion that's going toward marketing, because it's often when you're raising money, there are certain things that you want it to go to, and typically a good portion of it is to product development, and then the next line is sales and marketing. So being able to speak to what we do and how we do it and why investors should trust us, I think is a big piece. And then we work with companies typically up to 30, 40 million. It really, when it gets to that point, it matters more what their marketing department looks like. For example, I worked at an $80 million company that had just a few people in the marketing department. They would still be a fit for us because they don't have all of the internal resources. Actually, that company has reached back out to us to help them.
Awesome.
Since I left, which is so funny. So yeah, I would say that's about the size. And typically we're working with companies that are in a little bit more of an enterprise sale. So their sales cycle is a little bit longer and they're looking for select high value leads to come through marketing that they then work. Our shortest sales cycle for clients is usually about 2 months. And some of them that are selling to like hospital systems can be an 18-month sale, which is crazy.
Yeah. And I was going to say, so a larger company, how about you coming in as a speaker or doing workshops?
Yeah, we've done some workshops where I would bring in some of my team and we can workshop different things and parts of our process, like, figuring out your messaging, buyer personas, figuring out your strategy. So yeah, we can certainly do that. I speak a lot on kind of hacking B2B SaaS growth and figuring out where to spend money and how to spend it. But then I also talk randomly on things like, like being a female entrepreneur and entrepreneurship in general, on productivity. There are just a lot of different topics. And I'm actually launching my own website so that I can get my blog that I was telling you about back up and running. That'll be more closely related to the LinkedIn topics that I talk about.
Yeah, I was going to say you're a perfect example of why we're doing this Always Go Big podcast. It's a mentality, it's a mindset where you're not settling for status quo. I mean, you're going after something, and I really appreciate you being on. I'm going to let you get back to your day. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll be in touch.
Yes, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.